I think everybody wants to get to the truth of what really happened on January 6th. And the fact that we don't know the full truth is kind of an embarrassment to our nation. We have police covering things up, we have members of Congress covering things up, we have people like Nancy Pelosi not wanting to be subpoenaed or answer questions. And so today I have a very special guest with me. I have former Lieutenant and Capitol Police Officer Tarik Johnson to come on and help us understand what was really going on January 6th with the Capitol breach. Thank you so much for coming on our show today.
And thank you for having me, Stephen.
All right. This was a wild day. I wasn't there. I watched this. I read the news stories. I was horrified. And then I started realizing that I was being fed a narrative and a lie. That doesn't mean everything was a lie, but there were people that were doing bad things to the Capitol, and there were a lot of people that were misled, and there were a lot of peaceful protesters. So I'd like to have you walk me through this day through your eyes to help my audience better understand what was going on. Now, on January 6th, there were several major events going on in DC, including Trump's Stop the Steal rally. I've read that close to 1 million people flooded into Washington, DC. Were the Capitol Police alerted or briefed on the sheer amount of people that would be in and around the Capitol that day?
No.
How many? So on any given day, when there's a rally, do you guys beef up the number of people that are assigned to be there that day? Or is it just the same amount of police every day?
We normally increase the amount of people that we have there on those days. We had CDU squads that were prepared. Now, we didn't have enough Capitol Police officers, not even remotely close, to deal with what we knew what was going to occur. Now, when I say we have a former chief of, she was the former chief of our intel section, former assistant chief Yogananda Pitman, and she basically knew what was going to occur on that day, and she never told the people who needed it and the Operations Services Bureau, which I was a commander of. So we weren't prepared for that day. We needed way more. We had officers there. We had CDU squads there. We didn't have even a quarter of what we needed. We needed the law enforcement agencies. We needed the National Guard. We needed all that. And we would have been prepared had we had the intelligence that she had as the intel chief. And she just decided to sit on it.
Now, how would she have gotten that intel, and who did she report to?
She she was the chief of our intel section, and she had people under her. They put together a report basically that laid out what was going to occur on January 6th, and they gave it to her. They gave it to her in the middle of December. I think it was December the 20th, the 21st, around that time frame. So she had it. She never gave it to Chief's son. Chief Stephen A. Son was the person she reported to. And before January 6th, he was trying to get the National Guard support. But when he went to the House Sergeant at Arms, Paul Irving, and he went to the Senate Sergeant at Arms, Michael Stenger, and he could not get his request approved to have National Guard on site because the intelligence, from what they said, didn't support it. He would have been able to get that assistance had Yogananda Pitman gave him the intelligence report that he needed, and she just didn't provide it.
Okay, wow. This is I've studied this pretty extensively. This is the first time that I'm hearing her name. I just watched Sund testify before Congress about how they were basically left deficient on purpose. But she had this report since, I mean,
she got it in December.
Sounds like weeks in advance.
She did.
Now, who would have given her that report? Because I know the Capitol Police chief would have checked in with Nancy Pelosi, but who would have given that report to her?
She would have got that report from her analyst. They would send her the report. Now, the analysts, all they do is send her the report. It's her responsibility to give that report out to the people who needed it. Now, a regular analyst can't, they wouldn't even know, for the most part, that she did or didn't give it to the chief. All they're going to see is the aftermath of what occurred on January 6th and was like, wow, we gave you the information. What do you do with it? And then one of the congressional reports, one of the committees she testified during, she said she gave it to her deputies, and she never did. And she never went and corrected the record. Now, you always have to be careful when you say somebody is lying, because all they would go back and say is, you're slandering my name, and I just forgot to pass it, the information to the people who needed it. But you never corrected the record. The report is 21 TD 159. You can, it's probably public somewhere. I have it, obviously, but it's police sensitive, so I feel uncomfortable reading off of sensitive information, but it's out there. So if you really wanted to find it, and when you read it, you're going to be like, wow, she believed. And she even said during her testimony that even if she would have given the report to the people who needed it, it wouldn't have changed our posture. She never asked me. She never asked Son that. She never asked Chad Thomas that. It would have changed the posture. At the very least, it would have been something that we could have discussed, and that never occurred.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Because I've read, that former President Donald Trump alleges that he asked for 10,000 National Guard to be there. His security advisor, Kash Patel, has backed up that was true. But then those reinforcements or preemptive reinforcements were never given. Would that request have been there based on the volume of people that are going to be there, or based on what was inside of this report?
Now, the top person that had their report would have been Yogananda Pitman. She had the report. As far as Donald Trump requesting the National Guard to be there, he could have authorized it, but they wouldn't have been on site, from how I understand the law, unless the Sergeant at Arms, both Senate and House, both give the approval. So as far as Donald Trump is concerned, he's to me, he's one of the smallest reasons why January 6th occurred. The major reason why January 6th occurred is because our intelligence section produced the report to give to Yogananda Pitman that would have justified the need to have the National Guard, and she just did not give it to the people who needed it. We needed that report.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. This is like kind of blowing my mind a little bit. Leaving the police and going to the FBI for a minute, we now know that there were FBI agents in the crowd. In fact, one of the top FBI leaders that was moved from Michigan to the DC office put out a memo a couple of weeks ago saying there were so many FBI agents and FBI assets in the crowd that they've lost track of the numbers. Would the Capitol Police have been briefed or told about the fact that there would be FBI agents and assets in the crowd, or would that have even been kept a secret from the police?
They more than likely would have told at least one person on my department, and that would have been Yogananda Pitman.
Okay, so she is the bottleneck here. Has anything happened to her other than testifying that she isn't a liar and that she forgot to turn over the report?
She had she was I don't know if you know about the deal current Capitol Police Chief J. Thomas Manger gave her, but she left the department in February of 2023. But she wasn't 50 years old yet, so none of us really knew how she did that. And she went to California Berkeley University. Now she's leading their police department. But now, so she said that it was put out, they put a bulletin out that basically said she was basically retiring and leaving the department. Chief Manger gave her a deal that violated House ethics rules and department policy so she could leave. So she was still the assistant chief of the Capitol Police on the East Coast, and she was also the chief of California Berkeley's law enforcement agency on the West Coast. So she was actually the chief of 2 different departments at the exact same time, which was a violation of House ethics. Now, she's making over $250,000 annually at that new job, and I'm hearing that where she's at now, she's in California. I think it's Laura Zoflin's. I might be saying her name incorrectly, but she's a congresswoman in California, and she's now in her district, and I'm assuming she lives there now too. But no, nothing happened to her for what she did. And there's a lot. I mean, even when it comes to the actual day itself. Now, I don't know if you know this part, but it was me who evacuated the House chambers after begging, I'm sorry, the Senate chambers first, after begging Yogananda Pitman during the Capitol breach, because I knew that we needed to de-escalate the situation. We needed to get the members of Congress out because they were the biggest aggravating factor in the building. So after they started breaking in the building, I went over the radio and I begged her multiple times for help. I begged her during the breach if we could evacuate. She would not answer the radio, and I know she heard me. And that was at 2:28. Then, so while I'm evacuating the Senate side, getting the senators out first, I can't do both because I can't see on the other side. Yogananda Pitman she's in the command center, so she can see everything inside. She can see on both sides. The cameras show everything. She would not have helped. So I couldn't, like I said, I didn't want to evacuate the House side because I wasn't over there because I was still dealing with the senators. At around 2:36, an officer went over the radio saying that they were trying to break in on the House floor. So then I started the House evac from the Senate side and giving them instructions on how to do it. Now, if you listen to all this, like, you don't have to believe me. All these radio transmissions are now public and you can listen to it. And you will absolutely hear her abandon her troops on January 6th. Her responsibility was supposed to protect the police officers, Congress, and even the demonstrators that came into the building. Because you are supposed to, as a law enforcement officer, protect people from themselves. You know these people were angry. They believed the election was stolen. Whether you believed that it was stolen or not, you know that they were angry because of it. And you knew that the members of Congress needed to get out to calm people down. Now, this is the thing too, Stephen. Had I not got those people out, the people who came into the building could have bumped into a member of Congress. And I promise you, if you would have knocked down a member of Congress, you would have broken a toenail, anything. They would have added the terrorism enhancement to your charge. So your friend's wife would have probably got double the amount of time that she served had the members of Congress been in the building when she got in. Yeah. Now, it was an 8-minute gap before I called for the evac of the House side after I did the Senate. After I called for the first one, and if Yogananda Pitman would have helped me a little bit, Ashley Babbitt would have never gotten shot.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so she forgets to hand off the report to all the police to keep the police safe. Mm-hmm. She's up in the nest. She has visibility on everything. You're begging, you're asking over the radio.
Begging.
And she ignores you.
Flat out.
Okay, wow. This is
you didn't know any of this?
No, I didn't know any of it. I've read a bunch of stuff.
Mm-hmm. You didn't read enough then.
No, apparently not. And here's the thing. I guarantee you the average American has read less than me. And this is going to come as a total shock to them. And again, I believe that, there were people breaking into the Capitol, doing damage, doing vandalism, hurting people, fighting police. I don't disbelieve any of that. But then I hear things like this and I go, wait a minute, something isn't right. Something isn't right with this story. And that's why I need people like you to come on and be a truth teller. Were the police or yourself? Okay, let me back up. The FBI, we now know, knew for a fact that there were large agitated groups that were coming in to infiltrate the Capitol, get into the Senate chamber, the House chamber if they could, to cause chaos agents basically, right? And we know this is true because those people that infiltrated these patriot groups or whatever you want to call them had to testify in order to send people to jail, right? So
Correct.
they knew that these people were coming, but they didn't relay any of this to the Capitol Police.
If they did, they would have told Yogananda Pitman during one of her many intel briefs. I know she had at least one intel briefing days before the 6th where Chief Son wasn't invited to. He was the actual chief, but she's the intel, so you got to make sure that she's there since she's the intel chief. Some people from the FBI could have sent analysts information, and I believe some of them did. And they would have had that information. They would have given that information to Yogananda Pitman, and Yogananda Pitman apparently sat on that information. And that's it. And that's just what we know. We know she sat on 21 TD 159 because that was the one that was made basically most famous from the testimony. But other intel reports too that agents passed on to Pitman, we don't know if those reports ever made it to the people who needed it. I know I never got these things. And I'm working in the Capitol. On the day of January 6th, my job, I was one of the commanders. I was the commander in charge of routine operations doing the counting of the electoral votes on that day in the building. Yeah. And you didn't give it to me.
So the guy in charge of making sure that the most important people in our country are safe, they purposely withheld information from you.
I believe it was on purpose. Yes, I believe she sat on it. Now, I don't think, I don't know if she knew everything that was going to happen with all the deaths, but I do believe that she did it so that Chief Son would look bad, because basically if something were to occur at the Capitol, you're going to blame the highest ranking person, which would be the chief. And she was the next person in line to become chief, and I believe she did it to gain favor from Nancy Pelosi.
Was there any bad blood between her and the current police chief at the time?
No, the only bad blood is that I believe that she was irritated that he was occupying a seat that was supposed to be hers.
Okay. Okay, now my understanding is at one point you're running around, you're doing your duty, you are trying your best to keep the building safe, the people in the building safe, the senators, the congressmen, congresswomen safe, and somebody puts a "Make America Great" red hat on your head. Did you keep that on because you felt like it might give you rapport with the people in there and keep you safe, or did you feel like later down the road the images of you wearing that hat led to negative reviews, negative information on the internet? What was the story behind the MAGA red hat?
You said it perfectly. When somebody put the hat on my head, I basically, it was like to protect myself and to de-escalate the situation. And I believed it would make it easier for me to navigate my way through the crowd, because how often do you see a black police officer wearing a red MAGA hat on duty? Yeah. So I figured, that it would make it easy for me to make my way through the crowd. And right before, a little bit before that hat was placed on my head, one of my officers was calling in that same area to get help because they were gassed and they were trapped. So I was trying to get them out. And when I went up there that first time and came back down, that's when the hat was put on my head. And when I got back down the steps, I didn't have any officers. So a few minutes later, I had to go back up there, and then I was able to get officers down the steps.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, because I remember seeing images of you with the hat on, and I remember thinking, oh, that's weird. You wouldn't think a policeman would put a hat on, but it makes sense now that you would do it to protect yourself and be able to move through the crowd a little bit easier. What ultimately ended up happening with your job? Because I know, or at least I believe, you were never called to testify to
Never.
this Cheney or anybody on
No.
the January Select Committee. What happened to your job?
I resigned. Now, they did try to fire me, but I fought that and I won. And as
Okay.
soon as I won and they processed me to come back, I resigned because I wanted to win, and I did. But knowing everything that I know that they did, it was no way I could work for Yogananda Pitman ever again. I know everybody's going to blame Donald Trump probably for years to come for January 6th, but if somebody has a meter, Donald Trump would be a 1 on that meter, and Yogananda Pitman would be a 99. This was caused by her.
Wow.
And
Okay.
and the sad thing is that if somebody would just investigate it, have her sit at a congressional testimony and ask the right questions. Like, I know what questions to ask, but obviously a member of Congress, they're not going to know what questions to ask. And I will gladly help anybody if they need to sit her down. And you have to phrase the questions the right way, because she's going to be getting help from her general counsel, or her counsel. So you have to phrase the questions exactly right to get her to answer the question without leading people away from the truth.
Do you think that there are January 6th protesters that are sitting in jail because their counsel doesn't know about Yogananda Pittman and her actions?
100%. I've seen some of the information given to the DOJ by her, and it was absolutely, at the very least, misleading. So, and they did that in my case. So, if you would do that to me, a police officer, what do you think that she would do to the people who were in the building illegally?
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Okay, last question. What do you think the media got right when it came to January 6th, and what do you think they got wrong, or maybe purposely got wrong?
The biggest thing is the media. They basically made January 6th, in the breach of the Capitol on that day, was basically that a bunch of uneducated, white, angry Trump supporters tried to take over the Capitol via violent insurrection because they were angry at the results of the election. Now, it wasn't an insurrection because, and I've said this multiple times, that we couldn't have stopped it. We didn't have enough people there. So if they wanted to take over the Capitol, we could not have stopped them from taking over the Capitol. Now, did they do things that they shouldn't have done there? No question. But and was it violence there? No question. But to actually try to take over the Capitol, they had the numbers. We just didn't even. We had 17 law enforcement agencies respond to help out with the breach. That wasn't still enough. If they wanted to, you had hundreds of thousands people there. I know they may have said maybe 1,000 people got into the building. It had to be more than that, in my opinion. And the building was surrounded on all sides. So if they wanted to take over the building, we could not have stopped them. It would have been impossible. I know people, you see the movie 300. I don't know if you've seen that movie before, but all those people died in that movie, so, and the vantage point that they had in that movie was that they had one interest that they had to protect. So it was easy to protect that, but they were coming in on all sides of the building. So if they wanted to take the building, I did with the help of the officers that were under me, get everybody out quickly. But if their purpose was to take over the Capitol, they could have did it at 1 o'clock, at 12.
Yeah. Yeah. Just by the sheer
The
volume of
numbers,
human
we could
body.
not have stopped it with the people we had there. It would have been impossible. So the media got that wrong. And with the media, and I don't know if they got it wrong. They just don't. I think they have to keep that narrative just like it is until after 2024, until after the election. Because, like, you have your people who are going to vote for Trump no matter what. You're going to have your people who are going to vote for Biden no matter what. But the people that are in the middle and they can vote for, they could go either way, then the hope is for some of these people that are in charge that they don't vote. They don't vote for Trump because he basically incited the insurrection. But that's not the truth. The truth is Yogananda Pitman did this. And if people actually knew that, then some votes that would go to Biden would now go to Trump and he could win the election. So that's what this is about. The truth is going to come out about January 6th. The question is, does it come out in 2024 or does it come out in 2025? I'm trying to make it come out in 2024. That's my goal. Some people want to hold it up as much as they can. You have the Capitol Police Chief. He's the key to this now, the current chief, J. Thomas Manger, and his name is not out there because you should know his name too. Officers were fired after January 6th. And it happens to be the officer, USCP employees who went to the IG to report what Yogananda Pitman did. And they got punished because you don't talk about Yogananda Pitman. And they went and told the IG what Yogananda Pitman did. And me, I had been there so long and I've been a supervisor so long, I know you never go to the IG because the only thing the IG is going to go report back to the chief. And that's what occurred, and these officers got crushed. So Yogananda Pitman destroyed us before January 6th. With the withholding of the intel, she destroyed us on January 6th because she just would not help. And then after January 6th, she went on a rampage, and and then she started it, and then Manger finished it off, firing anybody that went to report anything she did.
I mean, you could have lost your life because of that day.
People did lose their lives on that day. Everybody that died on January 6th, everybody that committed suicide after January 6th, in heaven, wherever they are, they can thank Yogananda Pitman for where they are.
Wow.
Yeah, and I don't even hate her. I know people think, oh, you hate her. I don't. I feel sorry for her because I know that there's no way you can do all that and commit all that death and destruction and not feel something in your heart. And I'm a Christian. So I've already forgiven her. I forgave her a long time ago. And I pray for her with regularity. I do. I pray for her and I pray for the former chief who was protecting her, J. Thomas Manger, because maybe deep down inside, he has to be hurting, knowing everything she did and he's protecting her.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Okay. Yeah. I remember in the first several months after January 6th, the media kept calling it an armed insurrection. Finally, the FBI said that there was no armed. We didn't confiscate guns. Like even these groups that showed up that the FBI knew were coming and didn't tell you about, they didn't show up with AK-47s and bazookas, and you know what I mean? Like, it's just wild, the information. Well, you've unveiled a lot of information that I think most Americans knew nothing about. I guarantee you they're going to be Googling her name, and I appreciate you coming on. Now, you are trying to help people. You need help with legal stuff. We're going to put your Give, Send, Go link down below, and hopefully, some people can go on and give you some support. But you're a hero. You've done so much to be helpful to so many people, and I appreciate you being a truth teller. Is there anything else that you wanted to share before we go?
I would just say, people, you can look me up, Tarik Johnson. You'll see my picture there. You also see me wearing a MAGA hat on my profile because I got that picture that made me infamous on my page. And you can follow me, and if you want up-to-date information as far as what am I doing in this fight, you can go look because I pretty much tweet something every day, or I may retweet something that I've already tweeted that I believe is important that the people need to know. So, and I would say the most important thing is you need to research who Yogananda Pitman is and who J. Thomas Manger is and what they're doing. And I've said this multiple times. J6, no question, was an absolute setup. The setup was led by Yogananda Pitman. And now, after January 6th, the cover-up ensued. J. Thomas Manger, on my right side, he's leading the cover-up. So people have to know who those people are, and you have to educate themselves on who those people are and what they're doing to the country. Basically, Manger is doing this because he needs the narrative to state what it is. And if Manger were to resign and things, because like people were forced to sign NDAs. If Manger left right now, or then people could, or the new chief could say, you know what, I want to release those NDAs because we want to see what's in those NDAs. Manger is not going to allow that while he's there. So Manger is the key. Once Manger is gone, then the J6 narrative will fall. But it has to be when Manger is gone. Until we have that, which hopefully will be sometime next year, because right now Manger can't be fired. He could be fired next year once the police board turns Republican. Then he can be fired. But right now, in Manger, I don't know if you know who he is. I don't know if you know who his wife is, who is big in the Democratic Party. I'm pretty sure she'll be running for other elections. She lost the last one she did in 2022, but I'm sure she'll be coming back. So once he's gone, then the narrative of J6 can start to fall, and then our country can get healed.
Wow. Tarik Johnson, thank you so much for coming on our show. I wish you the best of luck. I will get this out and I'll put those links down below, but thank you and have a great rest of your night.
Thank you, and you have a great one.